Good evening to all. Welcome to this 27th session on experimental methods in thermal engineering. In our previous lecture, we have completed our discussion on the use of thermocouples, which are nothing but based on thermoelectric effect for measurement of temperature. In today's lecture, further we'll continue our discussion on the measurement of temperature, and here we'll try to see a few radiation based temperature measurement devices, and immediately after that we will actually see some of the issues which are associated with the measurement of temperature due to the effect of heat transfer. Okay, so before directly going to the device which are based on radiation, let us first try to see few fundamentals of the radiative heat transfer. So what we are having, we know that nothing but radiations emitted by a black body are given as E equal to sigma times T to power 4. Okay, where so this particular law which specifies the radiative emissive power, this is nothing but called as Stefan Boltzmann law. Okay, so this particular law we call as nothing but Stefan's Boltzmann law of radiation. And what we are having in particular, we are interested in nothing but our thermal radiations. Okay, so we consider that the electromagnetic waves which are emitted by a surface and having wavelength within the range zero point 0.1 to 100 micrometer, these particular waves we actually termed as nothing but thermal radiations. Okay, so we are interested only to measure the temperature associated, and we are, so that's why we are mainly interested in our thermal radiation. Okay, so we'll, wherever we will discuss, we will nothing but concentrate our discussion within the wavelength region of zero point 0.1 to 100 micrometer. Okay, so in this particular Stefan Boltzmann law, the sigma is nothing but a constant, and its value is 5.68 times 10 to power minus 8 watt per meter square Kelvin. Okay, so this is nothing but represents the radiative heat flux from a surface. And now we are considering that our body is nothing but a black body. Okay, so it means it's actually whatever the radiations emitted by this particular body is nothing but fraction of radiations is actually 100%. So that is perfect emitting, perfect radiation emitting actually body we are considering. Okay, and this T is nothing but temperature of the surface which is emitting this thermal radiation, and this temperature we take in absolute scale. So over here we will be taking nothing but as Kelvin. Okay, now generally what happens when a surface emits the radiation, so these all the radiations are not of single wavelength. Okay, so these will be of multiple wavelengths. But if we talk about that, what is the radiative emissive power which is associated with a single wavelength, that you can see over here, this is given by this Planck's formula, where we are having EV lambda is nothing but, so EV refers to as the radiations emitted by a black surface, and this lambda we are talking over here is nothing but refers to a particular fixed wavelength. Okay, so that is C1 times lambda power minus 5 divided by exponential of C2 by lambda t minus 1. Okay, where C1 and C2 are nothing but two constant parameters, and their value is also given over here in SI units. Okay, the corresponding graphical representation I have included over here. So along the abscissa you can see we are having this wavelength in micrometers, and then over here along the ordinate actually monochromatic emissive power is reported. Okay, the term monochromatic we are using because over here we are referring this equation for a particular wavelength. Okay, so you can see over here this monochromatic radiative emissive power we have plotted here. So this is plotted for two different surface temperatures. So initial surface temperature is taken as 1366 Kelvin, and second is 1922 Kelvin. Okay, so you can see when the temperature of the surface is increasing, then obviously whatever the amount of radiations of the surface will be emitting, that is actually increasing. Okay, and at the same point of time with the wavelength you can see that initially with increase of the wavelength, we will be having increase in radiative emissive power. It will be reaching certain maximum value, and after that, once again it will decrease. Okay, and with increase in temperature, you can see whatever the maxima we are getting actually, that maxima point is shifting towards the lower wavelength. Okay, so it means majority of the radiations are being emitted in particular some narrow range of wavelength. Okay, so over here you can see for this temperature of 1366, we are having very wide spectrum of the emitted radiations. However, in this particular condition, when our temperature is actually 1922 Kelvin, corresponding to that, what we are getting that maximum emissive power. If I take this area under the curve, so maximum area is actually narrowed down to certain very narrow band of the wavelength. Okay, so that is one thing we can see from this graph. Another important thing we can obtain is that whatever the peak we are having, I should say the maxima of emissive power, that at lower temperature it was actually obtained at higher wavelength, and corresponding to the increase of temperature or higher temperature, we are getting that maximum emissive power at nothing but the lower wavelength values. Okay, so this is something which is explained with the help of Wien's displacement law. So as per Wien's displacement law, we know that lambda max times T is nothing but equal to constant, and that constant is 2897, close to 2897 micrometer Kelvin. Okay, so that is something which we know from our Wien's displacement law. So you might have studied this one in your fundamental course of heat transfer. Okay, so what will be happening, because this lambda max, so lambda max refers to the wavelength corresponding to maximum emissive power. Okay, and that is at a given temperature. So you can see over here that this product of lambda max into T is constant. So because of that, what will be happening, when the value of temperature will be increasing, our value of this lambda corresponding to maximum emissive power will be actually decreasing. Okay, after that, one more important thing we are having, because all the surfaces whatever we will be using in actual practice, these will not be having the perfect emissive power. Okay, so these will be having actually uh, solar radiations emitted which are not exactly equal to that of the emissive power of a black body. Okay, so what we are having nothing but a practical parameter which represents the emissive power of some that particular surface. Okay, so what we do, we say that emissive power of a regular surface is nothing but equal to epsilon times emissive power of a black surface, where this epsilon is something which is known as coefficient of emittance, and this particular thing we call as nothing but emissivity of the surface. Okay, so the value of this emissivity of the surface varies from 0 to 1. So obviously, if we are having a black body, corresponding to that, we will be having the perfect emissivity. So body will be, or the emissive power of the body will be actually, or the surface will be identical to that of the black body. Okay. So what we do now, there are some typical representations that you can see over here. So particularly for a single temperature of 1922 Kelvin, I have shown you over here the emissive power as function of the wavelength. So you can see the value or the curve which is having the highest peak and greater emissive power at each and every wavelength, that is nothing but corresponding to emissivity of 1. Okay, so over here we are considering that emissivity is nothing but equal to 1. So that particular body is something which is known as a black body. Okay, apart from that, another curve I have shown over here, so which is in qualitative nature exactly same to that of a black body curve. The only difference is that the magnitude corresponding to each and every wavelength is actually less. Okay, so that is nothing but represents our surface which is having emissivity lesser in comparison to that of a black body. Okay, so this particular curve is actually plotted corresponding to the emissivity of 0.6. Okay, And then we are having third curve where we are having emissivity, this emissive power less in comparison to that of the black body. Moreover, if we compare this corresponding to the fixed emissivity of zero point 0.6 curve, we are having a lot of fluctuations over here. Okay. Um, at some point of wavelength, this is actually going beyond the emissivity value of zero point 0.6, and at some points actually it is having the emissive power less in comparison to that of the constant emissivity value of zero point 0.6. Okay, so in this particular real surface, you can see over here that the emissivity of the surface is not constant. So it means the emissivity of the surface at each and every wavelength is actually different. So this is the particular characteristics of a typical real surface where emissivity of the surface will not be constant at each and every wavelength. Okay, so this will be happening in reality. But when we do our analysis, it is not possible to consider the different values of emissivity at each and every wavelength. Obviously, because we will be having some constraint for the from the measurement point of view, and at the same point of time whatever the fluctuations we will be having on the surface, these will not be having any specific characteristics. Okay, so depending upon the surface roughness, surface local temperature conditions, we will be having significant fluctuations, and obviously these fluctuations will not be having any particular order, so these will be random. Okay, so that's why what we do, we take certain assumptions while we do theoretical analysis of the radiative heat transfer on the surfaces. So what we do, we consider that at each and every wavelength, we are having a constant value of emissivity for a particular surface under specific conditions. Okay, so when we are considering that emissivity at each and every wavelength is nothing but epsilon, which is a constant value corresponding to that whatever the surface characteristics we are getting, we refer that surface as nothing but a gray body. Okay, so that's why majority of the time you will be finding when we study our radiative heat transfer course, we say that we are considering the assumption that our surface is nothing but a gray surface, or our body is nothing but a gray body. The meaning of that is that emissivity at each and every wavelength is actually constant. So that is considered as constant. However, in real practice, that will not be happening. Okay, for a real surface. One important consideration also comes that when we are having some radiations which are incident on some surface, so what will be happening, say this is some radiation wave which is incident on some surface. So what will be happening, depending upon the characteristics of this surface, some part of it will be reflected, some part of it will be transmitted through the surface, and some part will be actually absorbed inside this particular surface. Okay, so depending upon that, what I can do, I can write, if I say that alpha represents nothing but the fraction of the radiations which are absorbed within this surface. Okay, so I can write alpha as nothing but this alpha I am calling as fraction of radiation which are absorbed inside this surface. So that will be nothing but whatever the amount of energy which is absorbed over here divided by whatever the amount that was incident on this particular surface. Okay, so this alpha, and if I define similarly rho as my reflectivity, so reflectivity is nothing but the fraction of radiations which are reflected from the surface, and tau as transmittivity, which represents the amount of radiations which are transmitted through the surface. So I can write that with reference to total radiations which are imparted on the surface, I can write alpha plus rho plus tau as nothing but equal to 1. Okay, now what will be happening for opaque surfaces? For opaque surfaces, actually we will not be having any transmission. So because of that, I can simply write that alpha plus rho is equal to 1. So that will be happening nothing but for our solid opaque surfaces. Okay, so we will be having alpha plus rho equal to 1. There will not be any transmission of the this particular ray. Okay, Now, one important point also we have to consider that if our surface is in thermal equilibrium with its surrounding, in that case what happens, the value of this absorption coefficient alpha is nothing but equal to emissivity of that particular surface. Okay, so if I have to define alpha and epsilon for this surface, so if this surface is in thermal equilibrium with its surrounding, okay, it means the temperature of the surface is not changing actually. So it means whatever the radiations this surface is emitting, same amount of radiations actually it is receiving from the surrounding. So if that energy balance of that thermal equilibrium is there in between the surface and its surroundings, corresponding to that situation, what will be happening, whatever the emissivity of the surface will be, that will be nothing but exactly equal to that of the absorption capacity of this particular surface. Okay, so this is something which is given by Kirchhoff's law. Okay, so this particular law is nothing but known as Kirchhoff's law. Okay. So now this is the whole idea of, or the very fundamental terms which are associated with the measurement of the temperature when we are employing the principle of radiation. Now there can be two ways of measurement. Okay. So the very first way of temperature measurement using the principle of radiation is something which is known as optical pyrometry. Okay, so optical pyrometry is something which is actually based on the visual inspections, and by visually inspecting our surface where we want to measure the temperature, actually we generally try to obtain the value of temperature. Okay, and second thing what we can do, we can actually measure that how much amount of radiations are emitted by a surface. Okay, so once we are knowing the amount of radiations emitted by a surface, then what we can do, we can actually measure the emittance of that surface. Okay, we can determine emissivity of that surface, and based on that value of emissivity, what we can do, we can determine the corresponding temperature value using our Stefan Boltzmann law. Okay, so these are the two principal approaches which are used to construct the devices for measurement of temperature based on the principle of radiation. Okay, so now let us try to see the very first type of device, which is known as optical pyrometer. So what we do in case of optical pyrometer, we are having nothing but a lens, and through this particular lens we will be actually visualizing our surface. So our surface will be placed somewhere over here. So this will be our actual surface where we want to measure the temperature. Then over here we are having some absorption filter, and then close to this particular lens we are having nothing but a red filter. Okay, and then in between these two lenses, so this particular lens over here, we will be having nothing but observer. Okay, who will be observing this particular surface. Okay, and this lens will be actually focusing all the light from here. Okay, so now what will be happening in this particular arrangement, we are having this filament over here. So here we are having nothing but a filament, and what we are doing, this filament is nothing but a simple standard lamp. So we are supplying some power to this filament. So because of that, obviously it will be emitting certain light. Okay, now this filament is actually connected to a electronic circuit. So in this electronic circuit we are having voltage measurement. So battery we are having, then we are having emitter. So here in this particular emitter we are actually measuring whatever the amount of current we are supplying through this circuit, and then we are having one variable resistance. Okay, so we are having actually rheostat over here, so we can vary this resistance. Okay, now what will be happening, depending upon the intensity of this light which is coming from the lamp, and particularly passing through this absorption filter, and then going through this particular lens over the surface, and then this lens will be focusing the light to our this second lens which is over here close to the observer. So what will be happening, what we can do, we can actually, with the help of this resistance, we can vary the amount of current. Actually we can vary the resistance in this particular circuit, and we can change the intensity of light of this standard lamp, okay, which we have connected over here. So what will be happening, while the observer will be observing over here, he will be actually getting three different situations depending upon the intensity of the light we are actually supplying over here, okay. So we will be having one situation where our filament will be actually clearly visible. So this particular filament over here which I have shown, this is nothing but this filament is connected over here. So in this first photograph you can see our filament is actually having dark appearance. So filament is clearly visible, and whatever the background source we are having over here, so this is nothing but your source for which you want to measure the temperature. So whatever the background source we are having, that source is actually completely bright, okay, and our filament is actually entirely dark. So in this particular situation, actually what will be happening, our filament will be colder in comparison to that of the uh, surface whatever we are having over here, okay. Then second condition is null condition, when nothing will be visible in this particular zone, so nothing will be dark over here. And then third situation is where our filament is lighter and our the surface wherever we want to measure the temperature, actually that is appearing darker. So that situation will occur when our filament is hot in comparison to that of the surface, okay. So these are the three different situations which we can actually obtain by varying the resistance of this particular circuit. So it means when we are varying the resistance of the circuit, what we are doing actually, we are subjecting this circuit to the constant voltage supply and we are actually varying the resistance. So obviously what will be happening over here, depending upon the resistance of the circuit, there will be change in amount of current that will be flowing into the circuit. So we are nothing but actually controlling the power whichever we are actually supplying to this filament, okay. So now depending upon the power, we will be having different temperature of this filament. So what we can do, we have to keep on varying the power unless or until actually we are finding the transition from cold filament condition to hot filament condition, okay. So when we are obtaining this particular transition, so we can say that our surface is having the temperature equivalent to that of the temperature where we are having the transition, okay, from dark appearance of filament to the brighter appearance of the filament, okay. So that's why what we say that whatever the optical pyrometer is, this device is nothing but based on the qualitative visualization, okay. So this device is based on qualitative visualization, and as we are qualitatively actually measuring the temperature of the surface, so that's why obviously what will be happening over here, whatever the error in our temperature measurement will be occurring, that will be in the range of plus minus 5 degrees Celsius. Okay, so we will be having significant error. Obviously, this error appears to be very significant, but particularly this type of optical pyrometer device is actually employed when we want to measure the temperature of a surface which is having very high temperature value, okay. So what will be happening if we are measuring our measuring range is actually very wide, or the temperature which we are actually trying to measure that is very high, so corresponding to that, this error of plus minus 5% actually will be appearing as very small error, okay. Then the second, in case of second arrangement, what we can do, we already know that the radiations emitted by a gray surface will be nothing but equal to epsilon times black body radiation. Okay, so epsilon times, I can write epsilon over here into black body radiation is nothing but sigma times T to power 4. Okay, so this is something which we know from our fundamental principle. Now, if we are able to measure whatever the amount of radiation actually we have, uh, what we have done, whatever the amount of radiation which we have actually um, which the surface has actually radiated, okay. So if we are able to measure this particular value E, okay, so what we will be doing in this particular lecture, we will consider that we are knowing the value of Eg. However, how to measure this value of Eg, that we will try to see in our subsequent lecture. So probably in our next lecture we will have discussion on measurement of thermal conductivity, and immediately after that we will try to see how to measure the radiative flux. Okay, so in that particular lecture we will try to see the measurement of this value Eg. So at this particular moment, what I am considering, you have to assume that value of this Eg is actually known from some device. Okay, so once the value of Eg is known, and if for a particular surface you know the value of epsilon, so you can simply determine the value of temperature. So temperature will become nothing but equal to Eg divided by epsilon sigma raised to power 1 by 4. Okay, but one important point is there, that calculation of emissivity epsilon is not that much easy, so its estimation is also a very critical task. So because of that, many times what we do, we can consider this surface for which we want to measure the temperature as nothing but a black body. Okay, so if we are considering it as black body, in that case what will be happening, our epsilon value will be 1 and our temperature will become nothing but equal to E G, whatever the radiations we were getting, divided by sigma raised to power 1 by 4, because we are considering the value of epsilon as unity. Okay, so obviously what will be happening, while we are considering this assumption of black body, in that case we will not be getting the temperature of the surface exactly identical to that of actual surface. Rather, whatever the temperature we will be getting, we call this as nothing but our apparent temperature, Ta. Okay, so now if you measure the relative error, so obviously relative error will be nothing but equal to T, which is the actual temperature if we know the value of epsilon, minus Ta, which is apparent temperature obtained by considering value of epsilon as unity, divided by our actual temperature. Okay, so if you uh, substitute the values of T and Ta over here, you will be finding that we are getting our error as nothing but 1 minus epsilon times, okay, 1 by 4. So this is nothing but, if I do the substitution of T and Ta in this particular error equation, I will be finally finding that my error is becoming as nothing but 1 minus epsilon times 1 by 4. So it clearly shows that the surfaces for which there is very low value of the emissivity. Okay, so in that case we will be having very high value of error, and as our value of emissivity will be increasing, the error in the measurement of temperature will be actually decreasing, and corresponding to the value of epsilon equal to 1, we will be having actually zero error in measurement of temperature. Okay, so that particular trend is shown over here in this graph. So you can see emissivity is plotted along abscissa, and error, the corresponding error which we are getting in the measurement of temperature, actually that is plotted along the ordinate. So you can see this typical curve in between this error and emissivity is having actually some power law nature. Okay, so it shows the power law nature, and you can see that corresponding to low values of emissivity, the error in your measurement is actually very significant, and as your value of emissivity is actually increasing towards the black body, so we are getting actually significant reductions in error. Okay, now one more arrangement which can be employed for determining the temperature, sorry, for determining the emissivity of the surface. So that also let me describe. So what we can do, whatever the radiations are coming from the surface, we can pass these radiations through some lens which will be actually directing these radiations as nothing but parallel beams. So these radiations will be passing as parallel beams on some another reflector. So for example, here if I take some reflective lens, and this particular reflective lens, what it will be doing, it will be actually focusing these radiations on some surface. Okay, now what we can do with the help of, so whatever the focal point of this particular mirror we are having, at that particular point, what I am now doing, I am actually pointing all the radiations and I am placing certain object over there. Okay. So now if I just measure the temperature of this object with the help of a thermometer, so we know already that how much amount of radiations we are supplying. Now we can see that whatever the uh, increase in temperature we are obtaining over here, and then by just applying this equation, Eg equal to epsilon sigma T power 4, if we are just recording the temperature of this surface with the help of a thermometer, so in that case what we can do, we can determine a rough approximation of this value of epsilon. Okay, so that is also, we will be getting the value of emittance, and once we are getting the value of emittance, we are nothing but getting the value of temperature. So this temperature and emittance, these are having actually direct correlation. So either we can measure one to obtain the value of other, or what we can do, we can determine value of one and we can use it for measurement of other. Okay. So this is like all about measurement of temperature based on the devices which are actually devised on the principle of radiative heat transfer. Then now when we do the measurement of the temperature, obviously I have already also told you that what will be happening if we are placing a thermocouple or if we are placing a RTD. So along the wires of the thermocouple, we will be having some conduction heat transfer. Okay, so obviously if a conduction heat transfer is taking place, it means some amount of actually heat. So if say this is my surface and these are my two thermocouple wires. Okay, so as thermocouple wires will be having certain thermal conductivity, so because of that what will be happening, and moreover the temperature of the thermocouple wire will be less in comparison to the temperature of this surface. So obviously what will be happening, there will be some axial conduction of heat from this particular surface into the thermocouple wires. Okay, so in one way, I have already told you this temperature axial conduction in this particular direction actually leads to some another effect which we call as Thomson effect, which basically changes the amount of EMF which is produced by the thermocouple. At the same point of time, one more thing will be happening from this surface. Actually, we are now removing certain amount of heat. Okay, so we know that conduction heat transfer is actually given by Fourier's law of heat conduction. So minus K A times dt by dx, that is the equation for conduction heat transfer. So for determining the rate of heat transfer which is taking place because of the conduction, at the same point of time, obviously we will be having, if we are having say the flow of the gas or any other fluid over these thermocouple wires as well as over the surface where we want to do the measurement of temperature, so that will also lead to certain amount of heat transfer from the surface. Okay, and moreover we know that if any substance or any surface we are having which is having temperature above than the absolute zero temperature, that basically emits certain radiation. So because of the radiation also we will be having certain loss of heat from the surface. Okay, so we can say that we are having this inherent nature of the heat transfer because which cannot be avoided. So because of that, there will be certain transfer of heat to the surroundings while we are actually measuring the temperature of our surface. Okay, so what will be happening if amount of this heat transfer which is taking place by different means, if that amount of heat transfer is significant, obviously the errors in our measurement of temperature will be significant. Okay, so what we have to do now, we have to while we are measuring the temperature of certain physical situation, what we have to do, we have to every time consider the characteristics of the system and surroundings in order to obtain the true value of the temperature of that particular surface. Okay, so let us try to see one of the situation where we are having one plate. So this is plate is having thickness delta, and one end of this plate is actually insulated and other end of the plate is actually subjected to the flow of the fluid. Okay, and we are considering that the temperature of the fluid is nothing but equal to Tf, and then we are having a thermocouple. So this particular thermocouple is actually connected to this plate surface at this particular junction. Okay, and now we are considering that the heat transfer coefficient, convective heat transfer coefficient from the surface to the flowing fluid is actually Hs, and obviously while the flow will be happening, that flow will also take place in the periphery of these thermocouple wires also. So we are considering that the heat transfer coefficient from the thermocouple surface to the flowing fluid is Ht, and we are having two wires. So let us consider that RT is nothing but represents the equivalent radius of the thermocouple wires, and delta I is nothing but, from this particular figure you can see, we are having inside one thin core wire, so and outside that we are having certain insulation. Okay, so delta I represents the thickness of this insulation. Okay, so if we are having this type of situation, in this type of situation what will be happening, whatever the temperature which we will be getting from the thermocouple, that let us call it as nothing but Ti. Here Ti we are calling as the temperature which is indicated by our thermocouple. Okay, and another temperature we are having as Tp, where Tp is nothing but the actual temperature of the plate surface. Okay, so if we just apply our basic or fundamental knowledge of heat transfer over here, and if we try to find out the relationship of the temperature profile as a function of our parameters which are associated with the different modes of heat transfer. So particularly in this physical situation, we have considered only the effect of conduction and convective heat transfer. We are not at present including the effect of radiative heat transfer. Okay, so if we just consider that from this surface and through the wires of this thermocouple, there is conduction heat transfer, and then from the thermocouple wires to the flowing fluid, as well as from surface to the flowing fluid, we are having nothing but convective heat transfer. Okay, so if we try to find out the solution of this type of physical situation, in that case what we have done, we have obtained the non-dimensional temperature profile as nothing but Ti minus Tp divided by Tf minus Tp. So what are Ti, Tp and Tf? These I have already explained to you. This is taken along the ordinate, and along abscissa we are having K into delta divided by capital K. Okay, so this small k is nothing but our thermal conductivity of this plate surface. So small k I am referring to as the thermal conductivity of this plate surface, and this delta is nothing but the thickness of the plate, and this capital K I think I have given in the next slide. So this capital K is nothing but A times, so this A is cross-sectional area of the effective cross-sectional area of the thermocouple. Okay, thermocouple wire times Ka square root plus Kb square root. So Ka and Kb refers to the two different wire materials. Okay, so we know that when we are using the thermocouples, nothing what will be happening, the material of the two thermocouple wires will be different. So that's why I'll be having different thermal conductivity. So for the entire thermocouple unit, actually we are trying to find out the value of effective thermal conductivity. So the value of that effective thermal conductivity is nothing but A times, where A refers to the effective cross-sectional area of the thermocouple, times Ka power 1 by 2 plus Kb raised to power 1 by 2 times 1 by Ht plus delta I by Ki. Okay, so this 1 by Ht plus delta I by Ki is nothing but, these are representing the convective resistance and conduction resistance because of the heat transfer from the surface of the thermocouple in the radial direction. Okay, so I have already told you that in the thermocouple we will be having this effective area as A, and outside that we will be having delta I insulation. Okay, so thickness of insulation is nothing but delta I. Okay, so what will be happening, from the outer surface of this thermocouple, we will be having convective heat transfer into this flowing fluid. So for which we have considered Ht as coefficient of heat transfer and Tf as the temperature of the fluid. Okay, and so this from the surface to this flowing fluid, we will be having one resistance, that will be nothing but our convective resistance 1 by Ht into A outer. Okay, and apart from that, within this insulation zone, we will be having conduction heat transfer. So for conduction, we have to consider the conduction resistance, so that we are considering as delta I times Ki into L. Okay, so because of that, what we are trying to do, we are trying to find out the effective thermal conductivity. So that effective thermal conductivity over here you can see with the help of this particular formulation. And here RT is nothing but the equivalent radius of the thermocouple. So equivalent radius, once again, it includes the radius of the individual wires of the thermocouple. So this is the value of K. So this I have included over here in the denominator, K into delta times by K. And then we are having one more parameter, because we are getting different lines over here on this plot. So now these different lines are corresponding to actually one additional parameter, which is nothing but Hs times A. So what we have done, in this particular capital K, we have included the effect of axial conduction which is happening in these thermocouple wires, and we have included the effect of radial heat transfer. So radial heat transfer includes the radial conduction within the thermocouple insulation plus the convection from the surface of the thermocouple. Okay, now one important effect of heat transfer is actually pending, that is nothing but the convective heat transfer from this surface into the flowing fluid. So that convective heat transfer is actually accounted over here, and it has been taken in the form of this non-dimensional parameter Hs into A divided by 2k delta whole to power 1 by 2. Okay, now for different values of this particular parameter, you can see the first, if its value is equal to 1, then you will be having this particular curve. Okay, and if the value of this parameter is actually decreasing, so if you are having 0.1, 0.001, or you are going towards the lower values, in that case, whatever the error we will be having in the measurement of our surface temperature, that is actually increasing. Okay. Now this is one more situation. So in this previous situation, what we were having actually the surface of the plate as small. Okay, and now in this another situation, what we are considering that what correction factor we have to employ for the temperature when we are installing a thermocouple on relatively massive plate. Now our plate is actually of very large size. Okay, so in this also situation is almost same, that Tp is the actual temperature of the plate surface, Tf is flowing fluid, H is heat transfer coefficient, and L is length. And over here what I have done is Ka bar I have defined as nothing but equivalent conductivity into area. Okay, because we will be having two different wires. So obviously for wires we have to define some effective area, and at the same point of time, because wire material will be different, so we have to also define the value of equivalent thermal conductivity. So this Ka bar represents the equivalent area and thermal conductivity effect included into a single term. Okay. So for this type of situation, what we are having, Tp minus Ti divided by Tp minus Tf is nothing but x minus Biot number divided by x plus function of Biot number. Okay. So x is given as this particular parameter, and Biot number we all know is nothing but equal to Hs into characteristic length scale divided by K. Okay, so characteristic length scale over here is taken as R, which is nothing but the radius of the thermocouple. And function of Biot number, if value of Biot number is less than 1, in that case we can take this particular functional form 1.27 plus 1.08 times Biot number minus 0.5 into Biot number square. Okay, and obviously while we are measuring the value of x, in this measurement of x we are having R as one additional parameter. So this R is nothing but it represents the thermal resistance of the thermocouple in the radial direction. So that already you know, that will be including the effect of conduction within the insulation plus convection from the surface of the thermocouple. So that effect is included over here. Okay. So in this particular situation, you can see over here that Ti will be the temperature which will be indicated by the thermocouple. Now if you apply this particular formulation, you will be finding nothing but the corresponding actual temperature of this plate surface. Okay. Then now let us try to see the effect of radiation. So obviously if we consider that this as our thermocouple surface which is having temperature T, and we are considering that a gas is flowing over the thermocouple, and that gas is having temperature Tg. Okay, so what we will be having, we will be having, because this surface of the thermocouple is having some temperature which is greater than the absolute zero temperature. So because of which, what will be happening, there will be some radiations which will be emitted from the surface. So the amount of radiations which are emitted from the surface will be nothing but sigma epsilon. So epsilon is emissivity of the thermocouple surface times Tt power 4, because Tt is the temperature of the thermocouple, minus Ts2 power 4, where we are considering Ts as nothing but our surroundings temperature. So this will be the net amount of radiations which are emitted from this surface. Okay. Now, if we apply energy balance over here, obviously we will be having convective heat transfer from this gas to the surface of the thermocouple, because of which the temperature of the thermocouple will be actually increasing. So if we are considering Tg as greater than Tt, so Ha times Tg minus Tt represents the convection heat transfer, and then we are having radiative heat transfer. So the radiations which are emitted from the surface of the thermocouple into our surroundings. Okay, so that net radiation emitted is nothing but equal to sigma A epsilon times Tt power 4 minus Ts2 power 4. Okay, so you can see that when our surrounding temperature is actually different from the temperature of the surface of the thermocouple, then obviously what we'll be having, we will be having this effect of radiation into our consideration, and our thermocouple temperature will not be equal to the temperature of the gas which is flowing over the surface. Okay, so you can see over here, if we consider this radiative heat transfer is 0, then obviously corresponding to that we will be simply finding that our Tg will be equal to Tt. It means our temperature of the thermocouple or reading of the thermocouple will be exactly matching to the temperature of the gas which we want to measure. However, if we are including the effect of radiative heat transfer from the surface of the thermocouple, then obviously we will be having certain error in our measurement of temperature. Obviously, at low values of temperature, because radiation heat transfer is not significant, so the error encountered will be negligible. However, if we have to measure the temperature corresponding to the high absolute value, so then we will be having significant error in our measurement. Okay, so to avoid this error, what we do, we go for an arrangement. That particular arrangement is actually referred to as radiation shield. Okay, so what we will be having, we will be having this thermocouple over here, over which a gas once again is flowing, which is having temperature Tg, but we have surrounded the surface of this thermocouple with the help of some shield. Okay, so over here we are having some additional layer or additional confinement which is actually surrounding the surface. So that particular additional arrangement we call as radiation shield. Why we are calling as radiation shield? Because in this, what we try to do, we try to consider the inner surface of this particular shield as completely reflective. Okay, so if this inner surface is completely reflective, in that case what will be happening, whatever the radiations which are emitted by this thermometer, once again these radiations will be actually sent back from the inner surface of the shield to this thermocouple surface. Okay, so under this scenario, what will be happening, there will be net, if we are considering that we are having perfectly reflecting surface, corresponding to that we will be having net radiative heat transfer from the surface of the thermocouple equal to 0. Okay, but obviously that perfect situation will never occur, so we will be having certain loss at the surface of the shield also, and moreover whatever the shield we are having, that will be also subjected to environment at temperature in E. So obviously there will be certain emittance of radiation from the surface of the shield also. Okay, but what we have to do, we have to minimize that. So we have, that's how we have to actually select the radiation shield material. So now I am considering that the temperature of the shield is Ts and As is the area of the shield. Hs is heat transfer coefficient from the surface of the shield, because from the surface of the shield, over that also we are having flow of the gas. So obviously there will be some convection heat transfer from the shield surface to the gas. So for that we are considering uh, convective heat transfer as Hs, and epsilon s we are considering as our emissivity of the sealed surface. Okay, and corresponding to the thermal sensor element, we are considering PT, AT, HT, and epsilon T as the same parameter, similar parameters. Okay, and for the environment, we are considering that temperature of environment is nothing but equal to TE. Okay, so now what will be happening? Obviously, we are having now two different surfaces. One is the surface of this thermocouple sensing element, and one we are having the surface of this radiation shield which we have employed over here. Okay, so let us first try to write down the energy balance for the thermocouple surface. So for the thermocouple surface, we will be having convective heat transfer as HT times Tg minus Tt. Okay, that will be equal to nothing but the net radiative heat transfer. Okay, so what we are having, this is our surface of the thermocouple. So the surface of the thermocouple is actually emitting radiations with the radiative flux of epsilon times. So if I consider epsilon T as emissivity of the surface, epsilon times EB. Okay, so this is the amount of radiations which are emitted. Now, obviously, what we are having, this surface radiation shield surface is actually what it will be doing. Whatever the amount of radiations it is receiving, corresponding to that, it will be sending back some of the radiations. Okay, and at the same point of time, because the surface of this shield is also having temperature above than the absolute zero, so this surface will also emit some radiations. Okay, so it means EB is the radiations which are going out of this thermocouple surface. However, over the thermocouple surface we are having now two contributions. One contribution is the radiations which are emitted by shield. Okay, so one is radiations emitted by shield, and another is this particular radiations. These are the reflected by shield. Okay, so these radiations are nothing but corresponding to reflection from the shield surface. So now these two contributions, what we are doing, we are joining them together and we are calling both these contribution as nothing but JT. Okay, so what we have done, we have joined both these contributions and we are calling both these as JT. So what is basically happening? EB is epsilon T into EB is the capacity of emittance of this thermocouple surface, and at the same point of time we are having epsilon T times JT as the net absorption capacity of the thermocouple surface. Okay, so obviously here I could have used alpha, but we know that if we are having thermal equilibrium from Kirchhoff's law, I can replace alpha with epsilon. So that's why I'm writing over here epsilon T times J times T. Okay, so this is nothing but the net effect over here, and obviously this net effect, when we consider the formulation in between EB and JT, then there comes some resistance in radiative heat transfer, and that particular resistance is actually something which is known as the surface resistance. Okay, so this epsilon T, so what we are having, this is the convective heat transfer, that will be nothing but equal to the net radiative heat transfer from the surface of the thermocouple. So net potential we are having EB as amount of radiations emitted and J as the irradiation which is acting on the surface of the thermocouple, and obviously while these two will be participating, we will be having certain resistance of the surface. Okay, because our surface is not a perfect emitter and it is not a perfect absorber, so because of that we will be having certain resistance of the surface. So that resistance of the surface is nothing but equal to epsilon times T divided by 1 minus epsilon. So this particular term is known as surface resistance. Now I am not showing over here the detailed derivation of this, because this is something which already you have studied in your UG course of basic heat transfer, where we study about this surface resistance. Okay, so that is something which is known already from our knowledge of the radiative heat transfer in a UG course on heat transfer. So this is the energy balance across the thermocouple. Similarly, if you apply the energy balance across the radiation shield, so what will be happening in case of radiation shield? now one important point I would like to highlight over here. While we have considered this small thermocouple, we have not included actually view factor or geometric shape factor over here. Why we have not included? Because we are considering that the surface of thermocouple is very small in comparison to the surface of the radiation shield, and it is completely enclosed inside the radiation shield. So because of that, what will be happening? Whatever the radiations are reflected or emitted from the inner surface of the radiation shield, all will be entirely falling on this particular element. Okay, so that's why we are not considering the space resistance over here, which is actually accounted with the help of uh, parameter which is known as view factor, geometric shape factor. Okay, now when we are considering shield, so corresponding to shield, obviously we are having environment also outside. So it means from TS to TE also there will be radiation heat transfer, as well as convection heat transfer will be there from the surface of the shield, because gas is flowing over the shield surface. And at the same point of time, we will be having heat transfer in between the thermocouple and the shield. Okay, so and thermocouple and the shield, whatever heat transfer we will be having, that will be actually nothing but uh, accounted with the help of this particular term. Okay, so you can see over here, this represents the convection heat transfer from the shield surface, and this EBS minus JT divided by 1 by FTS AS by AT plus 1 by epsilon S minus 1. This is nothing but the net radiative heat transfer in between the shield and the thermocouple. Okay, where this FTS refers to the view factor from the thermocouple to the shield. Okay, and then we are having plus EBS minus EBE, where EBE is nothing but the emissive power of the surroundings, and FSE refers to as the view factor from shield to the surroundings. Okay, so now while we are using this shield energy balance over the shield, then obviously we are actually considering the effect of both surface resistance as well as the space resistance, and space resistance is something which is accounted with the help of view factor. Okay, so view factor is nothing but it's a geometric parameter depending upon the orientation of the objects and their corresponding surface area, which actually tells that if say unit amount of radiations are emitted from surface, how much fraction of that will be actually absorbed by the other surface. So that is a parameter which represents nothing but the resistance of the space. Okay, so the corresponding value of the JT is also given over here. So this is something like this. So it means that if we are employing our radiation shield into our measurement of temperature across the thermometer, which is employed for measurement of the temperature, then we have to consider the characteristics of this radiation shield such that it emits majority of the radiations, it reflects majority of the radiations back to the thermometer, which are actually emitted by this particular thermometer. So because of that, what will be happening, whatever the term we will be having in energy balance on the right hand side of this energy balance for the thermometer, so its amount will be becoming negligible and we will be getting our accuracy in uh, temperature measurement. Okay, however, if we have to include the detailed effect of radiative heat transfer into measurement of temperature, then obviously these two equations, which is the first one is energy balance of the thermocouple and second one is the energy balance of the shield, these two equations simultaneously we have to solve. Okay, now, there is one small approximation that if our area of the shield is actually large, corresponding to that, we may simply use this particular equation which is given in the previous slide. So directly we may use this equation, but in this equation we will be multiplying some correction factor, shield correction factor Fs. Okay, so this shield correction factor. This shield correction factor we can directly multiply over here. So corresponding to that, we need not to go for this detailed heat transfer analysis. Simply we can obtain the value of this Fs as nothing but 1 divided by 1 plus A into epsilon by AS, where this A refers to the effective surface area of the thermocouple, and AS refers to the area of the shield, and epsilon S is nothing but emissivity of the shield. Okay, so for lower measurement of temperature in low range of temperature, and if we are having actually significant proportion in between the thermocouple and the radiation shield, corresponding to that we can directly use this shield correction factor into our radiation equation or energy balance equation, which is actually given uh, in this particular slide. So this equation which I have shown over here. So if you simply multiply Fs over here, that will be providing your correction because of the radiation effect into your measurement, and you need not to solve these two equations. Okay, if we have to exactly include the effect of radiation, then obviously you have to solve these two equations, and obviously while you are solving these two equations, you have to solve simultaneously with the help of some numerical technique. Okay. Now, these are the different values of typical convective heat transfer coefficients which are encountered in different physical situations. So obviously, in your previous slide, you might have seen that I have used different uh, terms H, S, H, T, H. So these are nothing but the heat transfer, convective heat transfer coefficient. Okay, obviously, the value of convective heat transfer coefficient should also be known. So for that, one table I have given over here corresponding to the different physical situations, and the type of fluid which is being employed, and their range of applicability is also shown over here. Okay. Now obviously you will be finding that we are having large number of literature available on the convection heat transfer coefficient, and we are having significant variations in the value of heat transfer coefficient which are obtained from different correlations within the same range of operating parameters and physical situation. Okay, so that is because of very uncertain nature of this particular parameter and its dependence on the large number of parameters. So that's why if you are finding the variation even in the range of plus minus 25% in your convective heat transfer coefficient, so that is also actually considered as nothing but acceptable. Okay, so why it is considered as acceptable? Because it's a very complicated parameter and it depends upon the large number of other primary parameters, and at the same point of time it's having a strong correlation with the physical situation where we are applying or where we are trying to measure it. Okay, so that's why many of the times you will be finding that we are having significant variations in our convective heat transfer coefficient correlations. Okay, so if we are having errors as large as plus minus 25%, still we can consider that our heat transfer coefficient is actually correlations is in the acceptable limits. Okay. Then transient response of the thermocouple. So this is one very important parameter because what happens if we are having actually measurement of temperature in some transient condition. So what we have to do, our thermocouple response should be fast in comparison to that of the change in physical phenomenon. Okay, then only we will be able to measure the accurate measurement of temperature. So that is something which is controlled by the thermal inertia of the thermocouple. So I think I have already told you that we have to always keep the junction of the thermocouple as small as possible, because if we will be having smaller mass, then obviously the product of this M into C, which is mainly uh, controllable parameter for thermal inertia of the heat transfer system, that will be small. So if our thermal inertia is small, then obviously our device will be responding fast. Okay, so what I have done over here, I have shown the energy balance. So I think now I'll not repeat this thing because this is something which we have already discussed in our I think third or fourth lecture while we were discussing the response of the thermal system to different type of inputs. Okay, so in this particular formulation we are considering nothing but our step input. Okay, so one small correction you may note it over here. So this is nothing but T. So here also you consider it as T, and tau you consider as nothing but MC divided by HA. So this tau is uh, characteristic. So this is nothing but characteristic time of the thermocouple. Okay, so whatever the thermocouple device we are considering, tau represents the characteristic response time of that thermocouple. Okay, so we know already that if we are having step input, so it means that initial temperature was some T naught, and finally then we have subjected our thermometer to some situation where we are having temperature as T. So for that kind of step input, we already know that the thermal response will be nothing but T minus T infinity divided by T naught minus T infinity equal to E times minus HA by MC into T. So we will be having some exponential dependence. So and obviously the time scale or the response of that will be depending upon M into C divided by HA, which represents the physical time characteristics of our device. Okay, so its transient response is actually plotted as function of omega tau by 2p. So you can see this particular curve represents actually the transient response of this thermal system. Okay, now what we may have a situation where our actually transient response of the thermocouple is slow, and the physical phenomenon where we employ the thermocouple for measurement of temperature, that is actually having very high frequency fluctuation in temperature. Okay, so what we can do, we are having one compensation circuit over here. So this particular compensation network is actually based on the resistance, and it is having completely opposite effect to that of the thermal inertia of the system. So if we use this thermocouple compensation circuit, then obviously our frequency response of the complete unit will be actually becoming faster. Okay, so what we are having one thermocouple input. Obviously this thermocouple will be giving some EI as output. Now whatever the thermocouple output EMF we are getting, that is actually passed through this resistance capacitor circuit. So RCC, and then one load resistance is considered over here in order to obtain the output. Okay, so we'll be passing this through this RC filter. So obviously what will be happening, whatever the output by input voltage we will be getting, that is function of alpha times that will be depending upon the electric circuit which we have used over here. Okay, so the response of this will be 1 plus uh, iota times omega tau c divided by 1 plus alpha into iota omega tau c. Okay, so this tau c over here is nothing but once again the characteristic time of this particular electric circuit. Okay, so this is nothing but RC times C. Okay, where C represents inertia, capacitance, and RC represents the resistance. So similarly in our thermal system, I have defined tau as nothing but MC divided by HA, where our MC is nothing but represents the capacitance. Okay, so MC is equivalent to that of capacitance in our electric circuit, and 1 by HA is nothing but equivalent to thermal resistance. Okay, so similar to that, we are defining in this particular electric circuit also, we are defining some characteristic time which is RC times C, and alpha is a parameter which is equal to R divided by R plus RC, where this R is nothing but load resistor and RC is our resistor which is connected across this capacitor. Okay, now if we try to see the amplitude ratio of this circuit. So in this particular circuit, you will be finding that amplitude ratio of the input and output EMF as alpha times square root of 1 plus omega square tau c square divided by 1 plus alpha square into omega square tau c square. So it is clear from this amplitude ratio that if value of alpha is decreasing, okay, so if value of alpha is decreasing, corresponding to that, obviously the frequency response will be actually decreasing. So whatever the omega we are considering as forced frequency. So now we can consider that say omega is the frequency at which our temperature is fluctuating. So we are considering that if we are having linear dependence in between the temperature and EMF, then obviously whatever the input EMF which will be acting on this circuit, that will also have same amount of forced frequency. Okay, so because of that, what will be happening, if our alpha is decreasing, then obviously the frequency response of the system will be improving. But at the same point of time, if alpha is decreasing, we are having alpha outside in multiplication, so it means amplitude ratio of the entire circuit will also be actually decreasing. Okay, so in that case, what will be happening, obviously if we are employing this circuit for very small sensitive temperature measurement, there actually we have to use some additional amplifier circuit in order to amplify the signal, because if we are decreasing the value of alpha, then corresponding to that our value of output signal is also actually decreasing. Okay, now you can consider that if we have steady state measurement, so you can see from this particular equation, if we are having steady state measurement, then obviously tau c will be equal to 0. So corresponding to that, our steady state response will be r divided by r plus rc, that is nothing but equal to alpha. Okay, so that you can see over here. So now over here I have plotted the response of E naught by EI. So this amplitude response of this circuit as function of omega times tau c, and particularly this is plotted for a fixed value of alpha equal to zero point 0.1. Okay, so now you can see in our previous slide, while we are having the variation of temperature, that was having effect which is actually in the downward direction. Okay, and in this particular circuit, whatever this additional network circuit we have used, it is having tendency to increase the uh, it is having tendency to increase the output. Okay, so it means both these effects are nothing but uh, counteracting. So what we can do, we can employ the combination of these two in order to compensate and obtain a fixed output. And obviously that fixed output, what will be happening, we will be finding particularly in some narrow range of frequency. Okay, so if we join both these plots, we will be finding over here that our output to input EMF is plotted along ordinate, and omega times tau. So our frequency times time is plotted along abscissa, and this particular dashed curve is actually corresponding to no compensation, which we have already seen. And if we are using the compensation by taking the ratio of uh, tau by tau c equal to 1. Okay, or sorry, tau c by tau equal to 1. So if I consider tau c by tau as nothing but the characteristic time scale of compensating circuit divided by characteristic time scale of the physical thermocouple device. So when that ratio is 1, corresponding to that, we are getting very, very smooth response. So you can see particularly up to this frequency value of this point, corresponding to this point, we are having nothing but constant value of the output voltage. Okay, and if you are increasing the value of tau by tau c, then obviously the zone up to which we are finding the constant value, that is actually limited to very narrow range of frequency. Okay, and if you are actually, if we are decreasing the value and keeping it close to 1.1, corresponding to that, we are having a large spectrum of frequency up to which we are having actually constant value of EO by EI. Okay, so what basically we can do for our practical consideration, because the largest spectrum of the frequency corresponding to constant value of output voltage divided by input voltage is actually obtained at t tau by tau c by tau equal to 1.1. So this is the value which is used for all the practical applications. Okay, so it means by employing both these two circuits, what we can do, if we are having even significant fluctuations of frequency in our measurement, corresponding to that also we can actually obtain the fixed value of output voltage. Okay, so obviously that will be actually decreasing our response time of the system. Then one important topic is there, which is corresponding to the measurement of the temperature in high speed flow. So we know obviously that if our fluid is flowing at very high velocity, if we are inserting some thermocouple into our measurement, then obviously what we will be doing, close to the sensing element of this thermocouple, fluid will be coming completely at rest, and whatever the temperature we will be obtaining from the thermocouple, that will be nothing but a stagnant temperature. So this is one important point, that if we are having flowing fluid and we are placing a temperature probe into our flow field, then obviously close to the temperature probe we will be having almost stagnant flow situation, and corresponding to that, the temperature which we will be obtaining, that will be nothing but our stagnant temperature rather than the free stream temperature. Okay, so we know this relationship, T naught equal to nothing but T infinity plus U infinity square divided by 2Cp. And if I have to give this relation in terms of the Mach number, then we know T naught by T infinity equal to 1 plus gamma minus 1 by 2 into m square, where m is nothing but our Mach number. Okay, so what will be happening, you can see over here that if our value of Mach number or the corresponding value of U infinity will be increasing, so we will be having actually significant difference in our stagnant temperature and the free stream temperature. Okay, so like a rough estimate I can give one, that if even air velocity is of the order of 70 meter per second, corresponding to that, whatever the difference we will be finding in between our free stream temperature and stagnant temperature, that will be nothing but close to 2.2 degree Celsius. Okay, so it means that when we are actually using the thermocouple for measurement of flowing fluid at low fluid velocities, corresponding to that we will be having actually lesser errors into our measurement. Okay, so in that case what we can do, we can, whatever the value of temperature we are obtaining from the thermocouple, that value we can simply say equivalent to that of the free stream temperature. Okay, at the same point of time, if we are using this thermocouple for measurement with liquids, we know that for liquids the value of specific heat will be actually large. So because of that also what will be happening, this term U infinity square by 2Cp actually will be becoming very small. Okay, so because of that the error introduced into our measurement will be small. However, if we are employing the thermometer or thermocouple for measurement of temperature in high speed flow, corresponding to that we may have significant contribution and we may have significant difference in free stream temperature and the stagnant temperature. Okay, so that's why we have to apply these two equations which are given over here. So depending upon the type of measurement we are having available, so we can use these equations in order to correct our value of temperature. But one more important point I would now like to highlight, that whenever we use the thermocouple for high speed flow, normally thermocouple doesn't read value of temperature exactly equal to that of the stagnant temperature. Rather, we will be finding that thermocouple will be giving some value in between the stagnant temperature and the free stream temperature. Okay, so that particular temperature, whatever we will be getting, that temperature is known as recovery temperature. And if we non-dimensionalize this recovery temperature with free stream temperature and stagnant temperature, that particular ratio R is equal to Tr minus T infinity divided by T naught minus T infinity. This particular ratio is something which is known as recovery ratio. Okay, so value of this recovery ratio for typical thermocouple arrangements varies from 0.75 to 0.99. Okay, and obviously the value of this R is a strong function of Mach number. However, if we try to have some specific type of device arrangement, then we can make the value of R as constant over the wide range of Mach numbers. Okay, so one typical arrangement which is used as radiation shield as well as to maintain the value of R as constant while we are measuring the temperature, that particular arrangement is shown over here. So you can see over here this inner core tube represents nothing but the sensing element of the thermocouple. Outside we are having some holder, then we are having some support over here, and over this support actually we have mounted a shield. So it will be acting as shield to radiation, as well as it will be actually helping us in maintaining the recovery factor as constant over the wide range of Mach number. Okay, so what will be happening, flow will be coming like this, and while the fluid will be flowing, actually it will be becoming almost stagnant at this particular thermocouple location, and then we are having some vent hole provided over here, and through this particular vent hole what will be happening, fluid will be actually moving out of this. Okay, so this particular additional arrangement will be actually helping in avoiding the radiation error. At the same point of time, this arrangement actually helps to maintain the value of recovery factor constant for wide range of flow Mach number. Okay, then I have included in summarized form the characteristics of different temperature measurement devices. So this is nothing but a simple table. So it includes all the mechanical as well as the electrical temperature based devices, and corresponding to that you can find their range of temperature measurement, okay, approximate accuracy, how is their transit response, if it is poor, good, okay, what about their cost, that is also given over here. And then some of the remarks are given actually, which particularly highlights their different application areas. Okay, this is also the continuation of the previous table for different type of thermocouple and radiation based measurement devices. Okay, so now, with this lecture, we conclude our discussion on the measurement of another thermophysical parameter, which is very important for the fluid thermal systems, and we call this as nothing but our temperature. Now, in our next lecture, we will start our discussion on the measurement of another thermophysical property, which is actually nothing but the thermal conductivity of the material. Okay.